The soft hum of a piano drifted through the restaurant, blending with the clink of glasses and the low murmurs of conversation. Warm golden lights reflected off polished wood and crystal, a place designed for first impressions and whispered promises. Ethan Blake stepped inside, adjusting the cuff of his tailored navy suit. At 35, he was one of the youngest CEOs in the state, respected, disciplined, and in complete control. Yet tonight, something felt off. He hated blind dates, always had. But his best friend had insisted, "She's stunning, different, just give it one evening." So, here he was. A hostess led him to a candlelit table by the window. Waiting there was Sabrina. She stood as he approached, her red dress perfectly fitted, her smile flawless and practiced. Brown hair cascaded in soft waves, and her red lips curved with confidence. "Ethan, right? I've been looking forward to this." Her voice was smooth, deliberate. "Nice to meet you," he replied politely. Within minutes, she was quoting headlines about his company, mentioning investment figures with uncanny accuracy. She laughed at all the right moments and touched his wrist lightly. Everything was perfect, almost too perfect. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, and more than once, Ethan noticed her phone picked up, tapped quickly, then placed face down. His instinct stirred, a quiet alarm bell ringing in the back of his mind. From the corner of his eye, he noticed a waitress moving quietly between tables. Blonde hair tied neatly back. No makeup, no jewelry, just calm precision. She wasn't striking at first glance, but something about her presence lingered, a silent observer in a room full of noise. That waitress was Emily Hart, and she noticed everything. Earlier that evening, she had seen Sabrina seated in the very same booth, but with a different man, one in a black blazer. Their conversation wasn't romantic. It was strategic, calculated, dangerous. Emily's heart pounded as she overheard words like project, details, and takedown. When Sabrina excused herself to the restroom, Emily made a decision. It was a risk, but she couldn't stay silent. She approached Ethan's table, her steps quiet but determined, and placed a folded note beside his water glass. "She's not who you think," she whispered. Ethan looked up, startled. Emily leaned closer, her voice low but steady. "I overheard her earlier. She's using this date to get close to you." She mentioned stealing project details, helping someone take your company down. His gaze sharpened, turning from polite interest to focused intensity. "I don't know you," Emily added, "but I couldn't just pretend I didn't hear it." Then, just as quickly as she appeared, she walked away, returning to her shift as if nothing had happened. Ethan didn't react outwardly. He folded the note casually, sliding it aside as Sabrina returned, her smile unchanged. Dinner continued, but now Ethan heard everything differently. He noticed her slipped references to proprietary information, the way she artfully dodged specifics about her own life, how often her phone vibrated beneath the table. The perfect facade was cracking, revealing the deception beneath. Then, his own phone buzzed, a short video, security footage, sent quietly by someone he trusted. It showed Sabrina earlier that evening, in the same booth, with the same man in the black blazer. They were leaning close, their expressions all business, no affection, only intent. It was all the confirmation he needed. When the check arrived, Ethan stood calmly. "Thank you for tonight," he said, his voice even. "But we won't be seeing each other again." There was no anger, no accusation, just quiet, unshakable truth. Sabrina's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, the only crack in her composure. Then she gathered her purse and walked away, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, a sound of retreat. Ethan never mentioned the note. He never mentioned Emily, but before leaving, he stopped by the counter where she was working. "Have you had your coffee tonight?" he asked gently. Emily blinked, surprised by the question. They ended up sitting by the window, the table now cleared, just two strangers sharing a quiet moment. There was no flirtation, no expectations, just gratitude. Rain began to tap softly against the glass, washing the city clean. Days later, their paths crossed again, in the most unexpected of places, a hospital. Ethan had pulled over to help an elderly woman who had fallen on the sidewalk, bringing her to the ER himself. As he waited, he saw a familiar face. Emily sat in the waiting room, her eyes red, her hands shaking. "That's my mum," she whispered when she saw him, her voice thick with worry. Their connection deepened, not through romance, but through shared moments of simple human kindness. Ethan learned who Emily truly was. A woman working 2 jobs to care for a sick mother, with no complaints, no bitterness, just a quiet, resilient strength that was more impressive than any corporate success. He saw an opportunity, not for charity, but for a deserving person. He offered her a position in his company's community division. Emily flourished. She organized outreach programs, saved failing charity events, and became a voice for people who were never heard. Through it all, she stayed the same kind, grounded, real. The same woman who had risked her job to warn a stranger. 1 year later, she stood at the center of everything that mattered most in his life. And one evening, back at the same cafe where it all began, Ethan slid a folded note across the table toward her. She unfolded it. The note read, "She's exactly who I hoped she'd be." Then, he knelt down right there. "Will you build this life with me?" Emily laughed through her tears, a sound of pure joy. "Yes, but only if the coffee's on you." And in that small, warm cafe, a story that began with a warning ended with a promise. Because sometimes, the most powerful love stories don't start with grand romantic gestures or fiery attraction. They start with a quiet act of courage, a moment of kindness, a shared cup of coffee in the rain. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that true character shines brightest in quiet moments and that love can grow from the simple seeds of kindness, then stay with us. This is Heart Echo Channel, where every story is written to heal. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories that believe in second chances. Thank you for listening.